Yo-ho, how's it going, dude?
Oh, it's good. How are you today?
Doing good, doing good. Beforishol asks, what happened to the confirmed Carrack? So this is the same player. This is Dradmer. We are on the same Carrack. This is the actual Medbay where we did all of those murders. The reason why I say this is not the real Carrack Karen is because this dude is not the guy who filed that report and got me that warning. So Dradmer, definitely not a, definitely not the real Carrack Karen in this situation. That is some butthurt Redditor. Man, I'm glad the comms are working for us this time around.
Dude, I know. I'm so fucking mad it didn't work last time, bro. It would have been like 3,000 times better on every aspect of it.
Yeah, none of my crew heard you talking at all.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm gonna break your necks. This is my ship, you bastard. Just all kinds of shit the whole time, bro. It's fun.
If only I got that.
Right, dude, it would have been better content for you and like the context.
So yeah, before we get too far into this, there is something that my crew has been wanting me to ask you. Two questions. One, have you considered piracy for yourself as a gameplay loop? And two, would you care to join Chaos Squad?
I am a pirate, and as long as you're okay with me being part of another pirate crew, I'm down.
Hell yes. I will be sending you an invite to the server.
Alright, bro, yeah, for sure. Let's hop on the most famous Carrack in all the land.
Right?
I've learned you gotta make sure you shut that door.
Yep. You never know who's gonna walk on board. Oh yeah, right? You never know who's gonna walk on board.
Yes, sometimes.
I gotta say, man, you left it wide open for me. I couldn't resist when I saw it. I was like, this has gotta happen.
Oh yeah, no, dude. I was like, oh crap, so I was like, okay, what do I do? I was like, oh, I'll kill myself and spawn in the Medbay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's the obvious thing to do. This is it, the Medbay where it all started.
This is it.
I see you've cleaned the place up a bit. Yo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Alright, can you guys hear me now? Yeah, you should
Yeah.
Yep.
hear me now. Alright, sweet. I just need to change some shit around. Apparently, where's
this
let me down.
Yeah,
I think it's better quality here anyways, really.
Oh, it's way better. We can't take off because the game is garbage.
Okay, well, I guess we could still have our meeting here in the hangar. Until we get punted back. Or do we fly something else out of Atmo?
Yeah, so we can fly out, and then
But
if I
fuck,
get...
then you've
I
got a
don't think
30-minute
it's-
respawn on this thing.
No, I'm gonna store it. Sometimes if I store it and redo it, I can... I don't know. The hangars keep getting this med bed stuck, like, and it's a floating med bed, and when you spawn, like, a big ship, it just, like, sucks into it, and I can't take off. And, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So we're gonna, try not to die. A little bit high. Oh my god.
Dude.
We're
definitely gonna die.
we're in an armistice zone. Here,
Oh, okay.
Here we go. This is how we do it. Oh, shit.
Yep, alright. Classic Star Citizen experience here.
See, this is why I fought so hard for this son of a bitch, because it takes me 9 times to get out of the damn thing, and then I finally get loaded up, and then some pirate sneaks out. I mean, come on.
I can't blame you. I really can't.
Oh my god. I mean, I love this game, but it's just, you know, it's rough on the edges. Yeah, dude, this whole thing is like, first of all, it's dumb that their audio didn't work. Like, you know, I didn't hear any of you guys. You guys didn't hear me at all. It's just the craziest thing. So like that's number one, and then two, to go out and like punish somebody for CIG never talked to me, never got an email, never got nothing, right? And then the only thing I got was somebody sent me um, a video, a clip of your video. It said I'm famous, and I was like, "Oh, it's this." So you get that, and then I was like, "That's cool," you know. And then I got a message I think from one of you guys, you know, and that's literally all I've had like on Spectrum from any of it. Nothing from CIG. You know, it's just like, dude, we both had a lot of fun. Like, I saw you guys having fun in your video. I was having a blast on my side. It's sad that it didn't like mesh because it would have been more fun for both of us. But like, that's the only breakdown here is that their audio failed. Like, neither one of us had a bad experience.
And nobody even had to sign a consent waiver.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's so weird that like, I don't know. That's the real dumb part here.
What I ended up doing, because I was working on another video as a response to keep this. My main focus is actually to continuously bring up the point of customer service being used against players. So it's more or less like what happened between you guys just is a cause of a larger issue. And what it is that there are players out there who are trying to use customer service to attack other players, which really isn't that new to games, but considering that Star Citizen is fucking in alpha, really CIG should not be giving out any sort of excessive briefing warnings on such weak evidence. Because what it looks like is that they've just taken that screenshot and gone, yeah, that looks like excessive briefing. Like, somehow they got CaptDirty's name and they've taken that screenshot. If they watch the video, then it's, you know, like they've intentionally gone out of their way to not do any investigation other than screenshot a video and CaptDirty's name. But because fucking it only looks like only CaptDirty's gotten the warning here, it just looks like they've taken the screenshot and then somehow got CaptDirty's name, and then next thing we know, he's getting slapped with an excessive briefing warning.
The shuttle is preparing to depart.
Now,
Yeah. So why what's first of all, what screenshot? Like, so there's I guess it was like just a screenshot of one of them in front of the medbay. Is that what
yeah,
it was, or okay?
See if I can find the Reddit post that it's associated with.
Okay. Because I had a link. I had a link to your thing, I think, too. But obviously that was gone within a very short period of time. So I never saw like a lot. I saw the original video, but I never saw like a lot of the original stuff. And I was like, hey, that's me. I was like, that's me running down the hallway. I was like, oh, sweet. Like that. I never had like from the beginning, dude. Not an issue at all. So I don't. It's a strange thing, but yeah, no, I mean, I totally understand. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's a weird thing that, like, CIG is gonna go ahead and go out on their own and just like, off of something. So I mean, that doesn't make sense, So it's clearly somebody out there with some sort of axe to grind, like you're probably saying, whereas they saw that on Reddit and was like, oh my god, and they went and watched the video, and because they had no context, and it just, I mean, like. It just looks like some boys having some fun, and like you don't understand the other side of it. It's like the other dude's having a blast. I was like, I do crazy voices and stuff, and I was doing like all kinds of like death metal growls, just everything, bro. So it's like if you would have had any of that context, if the game worked the way it was supposed to, everything would be fine, and they wouldn't even like nobody would have gotten any warnings because somebody wouldn't have complained. So yeah, it's really sad that a multi-million-dollar company is gonna go ahead and just jump out, not talk to anybody involved, and slap some warning around. But
yeah, like I just linked to the Reddit post that the screenshot pretty much blew up on, and during like pretty much from the start, like whilst there was a possibility that it was that you may have reported it, it was the least likely scenario. Because you kept engaging, you kept trying to fight back, and in my experiences doing piracy, most of the time if the people are fighting back, they're engaging in the gameplay, they know what's going on, and they're okay with it. So like that's why like you're at the lowest rung of suspects who have reported this, but because we hadn't spoken to you yet, it was always like in the back of our heads like maybe he did, maybe he was a sore loser, but we don't know. And you know, like without
Well, no, I
going
mean,
too far into reaching out, like that's probably one of the things that we should have done earlier was like
no.
actually we started hunting you down to say, hey, do you know about this? What's your side of the story?
Yeah, no, but I mean, well, so like, I mean, real life happens. You know, you and your homies get friggin' this thing happens, and the first thing like you look at, you're like, well, who's involved? Like us. Clearly, we didn't tell on ourselves because we had a good time and there was no issue. We didn't have any problems. Who? Well, then who else was there? Well, it was obviously this guy and maybe people on Reddit. There's probably some people on Reddit, but what if this guy did it? You know, and you're like, well, yeah, he's got a Carrack. You know, and you had to. I mean, like from the point of where you come from, you know, you do a YouTube channel, you deal with issues. You know, it's kind of like a journalism perspective. You know, it helps to have that selling point, that extra. You know, so like I never had an issue with the character, and like it's funny to me as hell. Like you know, I just it started like I had asked once in the Discord because like people were starting to like go with it. Like I had seen a couple times where people would be like, oh, you know, that's him, like that's Dradmer, because I had a couple times like this is after I started being like on the posts and going to your YouTube videos, be like, hey, it's me, you know, because like I said, I was totally down with it, bro. It was hilarious to me. Like, it was a great time. The whole thing was cool, and like, I completely understand like the market spin and like the need to do that sort of stuff. But also, like, at the same time, like, this dude could have possibly been the reason like your dude might not be able to play a game that everybody spent a lot of time playing. Everybody really enjoys it and spent real life money on. So, like, you know, even if you thought I reported, like, that's whatever. What am I gonna do about it? You know. I can't be mad at you for that. I know I didn't report, so that's, you know, neither here nor there.
My
But, I mean, you know, so.
my feeling on it from the beginning was that it was never you who filed the report, but somebody from Reddit. Mainly because of the timing. I got the warning like 3 hours after the Reddit post was made. And, you know, going through that Reddit post, I counted at least one person who was like, I'm definitely reporting this to CIG. So
Yeah, I found that post too. I found somebody who had actually said that in that Reddit post.
yep.
And then yesterday morning I found that, and that started me off on the this bloody fucking deep dive search into Reddit and trying to find out who this person is, trying to find out if I can associate their RSI name, so I could reach out to them and actually, you know, verify with them that they did or didn't do
Oh,
it.
I don't think
You know,
they'll be
to see
willing to
their
talk.
perspective.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
they've already changed their RSI name because
Really?
so they've
Oh,
bought
wow.
stuff. Yeah, they've bought stuff on the grey market, and when you're buying stuff in the grey market, you have to associate your RSI name with a tag, so that the sellers know that you're actually, you know, somebody who's a backer and
Oh,
not
that's
just some
interesting.
random trying to get hold of random shit. Yeah. And the last time this bloke had bought, or this person had bought something off the grey market was about 5 months ago. So between pretty much from when that, well, from yesterday when I started looking for it until 5 months in the past, that person has changed their name, their RSI handle. I haven't been out, like, I
Gotcha.
found their Twitter, I found their YouTube channel, I found a Pinterest, I found a fucking DeviantArt bloody page. Like, I found a whole bunch
Wow,
of shit, like,
sleuthing, dude.
associated with this one particular username. Whether or not it's the same person, you know, is up in the air, but not many people use the same username, or not many, you know, you don't really find many instances where a whole bunch of people, different people use the same username as each other, unless it's like a really famous character or something like that. And the name of this person, I'm just looking it up and it's like, not really getting that many, you know, hits of, you know, multiple people using the same name. What I'm finding is like, it's a single person using the same name. Across multiple platforms, which is the most likely scenario that happens with when it comes to usernames. So I'm like, all right, kind of hit a dead end though, because it's like they don't actually, like, Reddit was the only place where they really associated their RSI, you know, account with their Reddit account, and that's it. Like, that's as much as I know. So that's another, you know, like, point towards, you know, like, this less likely being, you know, like the Carrack owner, you, Drad, being the one who, you know, reported this, and more than likely somebody on Reddit picking this up and reporting it to CIG. But that makes it a bigger problem because it's like, well, what did they tell CIG? Did they claim that they were the ones who were griefed? Because if they are,
Yeah.
and we've got the person who actually is, one, CIG didn't even check their fucking username because when you make a report, you have, you do it from a user account. You can't just do it anonymously. So they would know. Then there's
like I said, I've not read the report, so I don't know. But oh my god, why am I back in the? Whoa. Cool. I was in the elevator in the lobby, and then all of a sudden I was in the bed again. Cool. Alright. But yeah, so dude, I don't know. Like that's what bothers me most about the situation is that like CIG didn't say one word to me, and you clearly like you had targeted my ship. You were in my thing. So if they watched the video, my name's everywhere. Like it's my ship. So, and I don't know how many Dradmers there are, but none of them other than me, more than likely.
No, you're the only one.
I've had that name, Yeah, I've had that name. I think there's one other person that I've even met uses the name because, like, I've been using that name since I was like 8 years old playing EverQuest, bro. Like,
right?
So like, I love it. You're like, this is D&D shit. I'm like, pretty close, dude. Like, this, So like, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, CIG should have fucking at least. Sorry, it should have at least said something to me and been like, hey, what happened? And I'd been like, oh, dude, no, it's all good. Like, I see how it looks bad, but no, I had a blast, dude. Like, it was great times. It was a war of attrition. I was doing some Sun Tzu stuff, man. Like, I was like, they had to run out of bullets eventually, kind of thing. They did, like,
I did.
I that's what I was like. The whole time I was yelling, like, you're gonna run out of bullets soon. Like, I'm gonna break your neck. I'm gonna get you. And I'm like, I'm gonna get you. And then, like, you drugged me. And I was like, come here, guys. I'm gonna get you. I was like, so that's what I'm saying. Like,
Dude, man, like, I can't pay people to like deliver that kind of content in the moment. Like, the fact that the game just didn't work, like, fuck, man. It's so. Because those types of moments are the kinds of interactions that I play this game for, right? That battle of wills. I mean, and like, granted, it was stupid and broken that it's even possible, but I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but fuck CIG, like, get your voice comms to work, man. Like, we need that.
That's the huge issue. Because if that had been there, dude, nobody watching the video would have had like. I guarantee you nobody would have been like, this wacky motherfucker, I'd shoot him too. Like, that's what would have been going on, I
don't know about that.
Oh, man.
That's one of the reasons why, though, I'm still pursuing this. Like, because there's video evidence showing, like, you fighting back. Pretty much, like, the guy's going through the entire process of trying to talk to you, negotiate through text chat, everything that they tried doing to reach out to you. And it still wasn't getting through, and then you doing your thing back to them. It's like, these guys are engaging in gameplay. It's clear to anybody, who doesn't have an anti-PvP agenda what is going on here. And that's the problem out of all of this, really, is that somebody has used customer service to attack CaptDirty so that, he gets in trouble for something that is actually supposed to be in the game. And creating the situation where CaptDirty is now, second guessing what he's actually saying. Realistically, like, you'd be telling all pirates and all PvPers, don't put any content out, don't put anything out that can be used against you, because all it takes is a screenshot and a liar to go to customer service and make a complaint against you. And that's a problem in my eyes. Like, that has to be addressed. Like, this is on the same vein as far as I'm concerned, as stream sniping, on the same vein as excessive griefing, where like, somebody is doing genuine griefing, like fucking flying around PO with a hammerhead and just knocking all the ships off the landing pads. It's funny as fuck to watch, but I understand when people are getting upset. It doesn't actually do anything for the game, and not for those people at all. But in this case, it's like, this is clear-cut gameplay happening between two parties, and somebody's gone, I don't like that because it involves PvP, so I'm going to go tell CIG.
Yeah. And, for me, you mentioned a little bit, like, about the streaming and recording. Like, yeah, part of the reason why I do stream all of my, all of the gameplay that I'm not doing with just my org, right? Like, if I'm interacting with players outside of my org, always stream 100% of the time, And my thinking was, oh, well, if I do this and like something comes up, then like CIG will be able to look at my footage and see probably that I'm just reasonably just playing this game, because I really don't like actively look for griefs or exploits or any of glitches, any of that stuff. I'm just trying to play the game, right? But actually, now after this whole experience, my feeling is the complete opposite, that it's probably actually a bad idea to stream my gameplay, because any one of the people in my chat right now could be sitting here waiting for me to do the next thing that smells like griefing and just fucking report me. And if CIG is not going to do any of that legwork to even fucking confirm that the person making the report is the same person that the gameplay is happening to, it's like, well, shit, like this probably actually isn't a good idea. And yeah, still haven't heard anything from CIG, still have no idea whether they've even looked at the video or what. I can't imagine that at this point, at least somebody in the moderation team hasn't looked at some of this content. But they haven't spoken a fucking word to me about it.
Yeah, that's. Oh, are you guys like? Are you concierges? Are you like big backers? Or are you just like little backers? Or
I'm a longtime backer, about halfway to concierge. Not that I think that should matter, but it may matter.
well, I mean, that's why I was just curious, because you guys had said something about that you were worried that the person was a concierge, that they had reported you, and so I assumed that you weren't, and like if that had meant something, maybe CIG like takes their word more seriously or whatever.
Well, who knows? Maybe. I don't really know.
So,
Like, they didn't
Yeah.
even bother to talk to either of us. And who knows about the person who actually filed the report, right? Like, they might not even play the game. I mean, I guess they probably have to have an account to file a report, but like, other than that, I don't.
oh yeah, and if they have the, he said they bought in Gray Market and stuff. I'm sure he knows. He seems. I mean, I don't know. He seems like he knows a lot about them, whoever they might be. Margin or. Alright, let's see if I can get this bad boy to take off. Big money, no worries.
No, this is like, in my mind, it's a serious issue. Like having to, bring this up. And we put a lot of trust into CIG to do right by the backers. Like, if somebody is excessively griefing, then yeah, CIG should be stepping in. But in this case, it's like, how do they adjudicate, that this was excessive griefing if they end up watching the video? Like, how could they seriously do that? And if they're going to say, yeah, this is excessive griefing, they should be explaining why. As opposed to just going, we're giving you a warning for excessive griefing to start off with. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's bullshit. That's somebody just being lazy and not doing their job right. And like, oh yeah, like, this, they're going through a list and they're like, oh yeah, I guess this looks like it fits it. And they just looked at the screenshot, obviously. Because anybody who would have watched that video would have seen clear as day gameplay being engaged in. Like, it's, and PTU, bloody, I don't know if you guys noticed, it was a bit choppy at times, but it's a fucking PTU patch. It's choppy, it can be choppy during any time. Server performance may not be the best at times, but you could see, like, people were still trying to engage in gameplay there. And, like, I just look at that and I'm like, all right, well, they can't sit there and seriously go, there's server issues being created about this. Because, like, fucking, I've seen people go to Jumptown with reclaimers full of waste and scrap and just, crash reclaimers into Jumptown over and over again to cause server performance issues. And it, like, the servers are, struggling to hit double digits around Jumptown, but if you move away from it, it's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you could see, like, and, some people were saying, like, that maybe you were trying to lag out the Carrack area so that you could attack Dirty and, take advantage of, the amount of lag that was happening there. But if that was the case, then if anybody was going to get a warning, it should have actually been you, Drad. But the fact of the matter is like, if you cause that much lag, then you would also be lagging as well and be struggling to play. So it's, you can't really sit there and base a judgment call on server performance. Like you trying to attack, use server performance and attack via that way. Which is why when I watched the video, it's like, yeah, server performance, looks like it's going shit for everyone at the moment, but that's okay. That, it's lots of PvP encounters happen like that. Server starts chugging when people start fighting, especially if there's wreckages around and, dead bodies and heaps of different physicalized objects that have, body physics containers or physics objects attached to them. That's pretty normal. But in this case, it's like you see two parties engaging in gameplay. One of them's not sitting there, they're not typing in chat, please stop, I'll do what you want, blah, blah, blah. And, CaptDirty's not sitting there. Because I have done this where, like, I talk to somebody, and unless I get the answer that I want to fucking hear, I will just, cap him in the head 5 times without even letting them get out of the bed. And then I'll ask him again, are you going to do, are you going to pay or are you going to leave the server? No, yes, no. If they say no, cap him another 5 times.
Right.
What about now?
I mean, like, I definitely remember trying to open comms about 2 times early on, and then again when we tried to drug you. But after that, I'm just like, fuck it, man. Like, he's either not hearing me or not talking to me, so we're just gonna keep shooting. And, the lag thing, like, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, like, it definitely was happening, but it was completely an unintentional consequence of what was happening within the game. Like, I don't think anybody could reasonably argue that, like, either party was trying to create server lag to then exploit it to grief someone else. It's just like, what the fuck kind of argument is that? Right? Like, it's obviously just 2 people playing this game, and the game is broken, and it needs to be fixed, right? And that's a totally separate issue, again, from the moderation problem, which still, it baffles me that they didn't even bother to talk to you, man, or confirm that it was you who made the report. It's completely unbelievable.
Yeah, that part's unacceptable. Like, if you're running a business, like, if I was in charge of a situation like this and it was customer service, I'd be like, well, did we talk to the customer? Oh, we didn't. Oh yeah, then what are we doing now? It's like come on now. Like,
it's like if I went into a restaurant and, like, pointed at somebody's fucking plate and was like, that food looks like it sucks, you should return it. Like, what the fuck? Man, like, that's not how the world works.
That steak is not how I wanted it, damn it. Fire that person. Wait, what?
Yeah, that steak, they look at the steak and they go, that looks like it tastes terrible, but you take it back. Yeah, it's dumb. But
so they just run in with a fucking Instagram picture like, this is the worst picture ever. You lose your job, and the cook has to leave. Like, that's not that's not reasonable. It's unreasonable.
Then there's, like, the next thing, like, a lot of people were saying, like, oh, you should, like, CaptDirty and that should have left after it was clear that the Carrack owner was just going to keep respawning. It's like, no, fuck that. I fought for this ship, I've taken it from the owner, and they're going to keep respawning. I can't help that they want to keep respawning. They want to keep fighting back, that's fine. I've tried talking to them, they won't listen, they keep fighting back, that's okay. We'll just keep putting them down. During that time, we're going to extract as much value from this thing, because it's bloody, intact, pristine, which is, if you're trying to min-max profits as a pirate, then yeah, that's what you want to do. And to blame the backers for utilizing mechanics in a way that CIG should really have addressed, like, this fucking, infinite spawn issue with the Carrack isn't new. It's been around since the Carrack fucking started. I've heard of pirates who have ended up in a position where they've, set their medbed on a Carrack, lost the gunfight against the owner, and they've ended up in the medbed suppressed. And it's like, well, they can't even, they can't even get out of that bed. Like, they, and they can't even reset their spawn point on it because they're not the owner. The owner has the power to be able to do that. If for them to be able to do it during when the medbed was first introduced, like, you had to get out of the bed to interact with the, point. And fucking the owner could do it from where they were standing. But they'll just keep capping the pirate. And it was like, well, what else? They have to actually leave then.
That's
and
something.
people will sit there and go, yeah, that's exactly right. The pirate shouldn't be on the ship, and it's like, well, fucking, that's okay that you fought and are preserving your ship, but now you've gone from stopping a piracy attack to essentially reefing the pirate when you have the power to remove them properly by clearing the med bed.
Right. And that's a much more clear-cut case of like if it back in those days when you couldn't push the button from the bed. And just to confirm, Dradmer, you could have at any time that you respawned pushed a button that would have respawned you back at your home planet before you got out of the bed, right? You see that screen?
I'm pretty sure I could have. There was something I could have. I had the option, but
you weren't even
my
bothering
plan
though.
was not
Yeah.
to leave. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I could. I don't think it's like I don't think you guys were griefing me because at any point I could have logged off or chosen not to respawn. My point was literally just to respawn until you ran out of ammo because that's an option that I had. Like that's literally the only option I had. I had no weapons on the ship. And my only ship that I had that had anything, I think, is the one that I had to trash and blow up so that I could come teleport onto the ship. So I didn't have any guns
so
and I was literally gonna try melee.
That was another
but
question.
Melee didn't work.
Another question I wanted to ask you was, you intentionally backspaced onto the ship because you knew you had a gun and some armor there and could fight me, right? Like it wasn't an accident.
Well, No, I backspaced onto the ship because I knew I had armor. I didn't have any weapons, but my plan was just to run up and middle space you, which the middle space didn't work like any of the times I tried to use it. Which is that's another aspect of the game. Like, had the game worked the way it's supposed to, I even heard you on your stream trying to use the middle space and it wouldn't work. What I found out since then is if you have a knife in your hand, middle space, the little middle mouse button always works, but it doesn't always work with fists. So now I carry a knife. So I keep a couple knives on the Carrack, and if someone shows up, then I can actually respawn and run up and stab them because nobody reacts fast enough. The game, there's a little bit of desync. I was going to try to, I'm clearly outnumbered. But yeah, my plan was to fight the whole time. My plan was to get on the ship, get my ship back. I didn't know how many people, so I spawned in the first couple times trying to figure out how many guys there were. I think I had counted 2 or 3. I wasn't really sure. So I was like, all right, well, I'll do is I'll just keep coming back. And I've got nothing to do for the next 2 hours. I'll just respawn. So I had a big time. I was like, I've nothing to do, man. My kids don't get out of school for a couple hours. I'm just chilling. So yeah, it was completely intentional to get on my ship and try to take it back. It was completely intentional to respawn unlimited times and fight you. And I had told you all that, but the game didn't let you hear me. And I had constantly reminded you, I know you're running out of ammo. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna break your neck. In old man voices and scary voices, and girl voices, Asian voices. Just all kinds. I was having a fucking ball, bro. So yeah, it was I personally, I think I'm gonna reach out to CIG and just be like, hey, I've talked to these guys. They're really nice guys. I've watched their video. I personally am involved in this, and you punished this person, and I'm not sure why. Can you explain why? And they won't, but maybe it'll get your warning removed or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd appreciate
Not that
that.
I have any power, but I just because you seem like a genuine guy, and this is just. Like I said, it's the dumbest thing because I had fun, you had fun, and we had fun in a game that was broken to the point where we should have both had more fun.
Dude.
And somebody else decided that we didn't have the right kind of fun, so CIG punishes you. What?
I was watching Salty Mike's reaction to Asian's video, and it's crazy how much it's blown up. But one of Salty Mike's takes was CIG should be fucking lucky that there are people engaging in this kind of gameplay or just playing the fucking broken ass game at all. And man, after the experience that I've been having with the moderation team, I am definitely feeling that way too. And it's really a shame because I think that the type of gameplay that piracy provides for non-pirate players is invaluable. There's no way that they can program NPCs to hunt and track and attack a player with the same kind of level of intelligence that players will. There's just no way that that's gonna ever happen in the game. And if they're gonna push us out in this way by just randomly, haphazardly passing out warnings for gameplay that both people were consensually engaging in, it's it's wild. And if this becomes the norm, then fucking forget it, man. Like, nobody is going to invest $1,000 into a fleet of ships that could just get taken away at any moment for engaging in gameplay that the game allows, but somebody on the moderation team doesn't like. Like, it's a recipe for disaster as far as that kind of gameplay is concerned. And I don't see how they fix it except to come out and say, like, yo, we fucked up. You know, here's how we're going to deal with this in the future, and like actually stick to that. Because so far they said a lot of shit, like, oh, we're going to be really transparent and we're going to let you all know what we're thinking about things. And like, yeah, they've done that, but the only way that they did that was by giving me a warning and saying this bad. And so everybody in the pirate community, I've got people from like 4 different pirate orgs that are contacting me, and they're like, yeah, this is what we're going to do when we encounter a Carrack or an 890, and not one of them has the same fucking plan. So who knows who's going to get the next ban, or ban warning, or whatever.
Warning. Well, that's just it. Like, it's a warning now. How long until it's a ban?
Right.
You know, like CIG is this is moving goalpost type of situation where CIG is going, you know, like, this is, you know, like, we consider randomly attacking lots of other players, you know, outside of armistice zones as, you know, griefing, or as they're trying to leave an, you know, an armistice zone. If you attack them, you're griefing them. And it's like, all right, that doesn't really make much sense because it's a PvP environment, but hey, you know, like, make sure that you guys do your side of the, you know, thing, and put security up for those players to help protect them, to make it harder for that to happen, because it's supposed to be a game that has that sort of things in it, as opposed to you guys just telling us off for playing your game. But then there's like, where this particular scenario, it's like, I've done this before. I've done this heaps of times. I've had people who are, you know, like, just as fucking, you know, tenacious as what Drad was here. And they just kept wanting to fight back, and VoIP did work, and it was just trash talking the whole way through. You know, but they didn't like the experience. They didn't want to be there. They wanted us off their ship, and they knew that they had lost. They weren't going to capitulate, and all they were doing was just respawning so that they could trash talk us and call us out, cuss us out, whatever they could say to try and, you know, like, hurt us any way that they could. And it's kind of ridiculous now that we've got an incident here where this same type of scenario happens, and it's like, okay, a Carrack med bed or a Carrack med area wouldn't be a case of griefing if it gets filled with that many bodies. Like, it takes 2 people to get spawn camped. You know, you got the person getting spawn camped, and then you got the person doing the spawn camping. All right, if the person that doesn't want to get spawn camped anymore, if they don't want to get that to happen to them anymore, they got ways of getting out of it now. Like, they've got the ability to reset their medbed from the laying down position. All right, they could, you know, easily exit to menu if they wanted to. Those 2 methods right there gets them out of the scenario. They can then go onto a different server or jump into a different ship at a, you know, at their home hospital. They can jump into a different ship and fuck off and go do something else. Like, that right there proves to me that it's not excessive griefing, because they could, you know, pull themselves out of that scenario at any point. What reinforces it is if you're watching the video for the entire scenario, like, you see CaptDirty making attempts. Like, he's done pretty much the most that you can do to get hold of somebody, short of sending them a message on Spectrum and hoping that they fucking respond there. It's like, in my mind, it's an overreaction by CIG, where they've just gone, hey, you know, somebody's, you know, lied to them in the first place, in my mind, because, like, I don't see CIG monitoring Reddit that closely for moderation actions. Like, they're not looking to, you know, attack players or, you know, like, slap, you know, warnings on players by monitoring all the social media that's out there of, you know, what's being put out there. So somebody has had to see that screenshot, reported it to CIG, and essentially gone, this guy was griefing, and then showing them that screenshot and gone, you know, CaptDirty, griefer. And see, you know, the customer service rep has seen that and gone, you know, I would like to think that it's a list that they look at and go, lots of dead bodies, standing over one person, yeah, that fits the bill for excessive griefing. in which case that's a systematic error on CIG's behalf that needs to be fixed. But, like, one, doing an investigation to make sure that it's actually griefing is a pretty big one, especially if you're going to give out warnings, because now what you got is, like CaptDirty is going to be second guessing his, like what he's doing. And he's already said, maybe I shouldn't be fucking, bloody doing content creation and all that sort of stuff, showing this off to the rest of the, world, because some, bloody fucking anti-PvPer is going to try and weaponize what I'm showing against me and, get me a warning. How many warnings does it take until a ban? Maybe there's something that you do that you don't realize is, insta-ban. And you do it, and then next minute, buddy, you lost your account, or you got a temporary suspension. And I've seen and I've heard stories now, and I'm trying to collect more stories from more people that have, experienced this, but I've seen a story from somebody, from one backer, where they got a temporary suspension for an entire patch cycle because they got accused of leveraging a bug that was causing a 30k on a server, which they didn't even know about. The circumstances just happened to be that they challenged people to come to SBK. Apparently there was something that would cause SBK to 30k the server. And because they did, put the challenge out in chat and somebody reported it, that person, was accused of intentionally 30k servers, and they were given a temporary suspension, and they weren't allowed to play that, entire patch cycle until the next one. And they didn't get any opportunity to fight back against that. They,
Wow.
like they tried contacting customer service. They tried talking, like trying to, present their evidence and present their side of the story. And it was like, no, that's it. Now, I'd like to think that there's a bit more to it, but CIG won't, like they won't tell us because it's, privacy issues right there. So we've only got one side of the story there, and we probably will only have one side of the story. But the problem is here is that I'm more likely to lean over to believing this person who's told their story based on the fact that we've got a claim of excessive griefing against you, CaptDirty, where it's pretty clear it's gameplay that's happening between two people, and somebody else has come in from the side and gone, yeah, I don't like this because this looks like PvP, and I don't want to end up in that situation because, I just want to be able to, put my thumb up my ass and play the game, thumb and bum, mine and neutral, and just, fucking make numbers go up. And that's okay if that's what they want to do, but they shouldn't be attacking other players for playing the game the way that they want and doing it outside the gameplay space. Like, that's the part that gets me the most about this entire scenario. This is an attack outside of the gameplay space. This is like doxing someone, in my mind. You're weaponizing customer support to attack a player outside the gameplay space.
I mean, you have to assume, right, that like at some point CIG will have to take action behind their warnings, right? And so, yeah, just the idea that some random asshole on Reddit can potentially separate me from the hundreds of dollars that I've spent on this game and the opportunity to continue to enjoy and create content for this game, that fucking really sucks. And like honestly has really killed a lot of my motivation to play and create content. I'm still doing it, but like, man, the thrill is kind of gone a little bit. It's kind of gone a little sour, if I'm being like completely honest.
Like when I started looking at this entire thing, my first initial reaction was like, fuck CIG. Like we've been advertising their game for them. And showing it off to the world and showing, how to play the game in a different way that isn't fucking programmed by them to do, half the shit that we do. It's just systematic design that we're leveraging in order to achieve piracy. It's not like mining where we need specific mechanics made, specifically for us and only for us to make piracy work. We've taken, whatever they've added to the game and cobbled it together and gone, hey, we can make a piracy encounter out of this. And, put it up there to show to the rest of the world, hey, if you're interested in this type of gameplay, this is what you could do. Like the systematic design of what we've got in Star Citizen is enough where you can create, emergent gameplay experiences that, you won't see CIG programming into the NPCs or the AI for, potentially the next 5 years because of all the tech debt that they've accumulated of trying to create just the MMO portion of this game. And now, like CIG's like, yeah, we love that sort of stuff. We love PvP and pirates. And then, they see a screenshot of a bloody Carrack's Medbay full of bodies and one person standing over and they're like, oh, but not like that. It's like, all right, well, why didn't you fucking tell us before, we're in that situation? You can't sit there and go, yeah, you guys need to, play the game fair and you need to be nice to each other. But if you can be a pirate though, which isn't really a nice thing. Don't try and disrupt each other's gameplay too much, but you can be a pirate, which is actually a really disruptive thing that you can do to other people. But, don't do it too much because we'll slap you with an excessive griefing warning and, threaten to ban you or threaten to suspend your account for a period of time so that you can't play our game because, we don't want you being too disruptive. And it's like, all right, well, where's that line though? Because in
Right.
some people's mind, it's like you kill them once, if they respawn and they try to fight back, you should be walking away. And it's like, fuck off. I'm not walking away. You're naked. You just came out of bed. Me and my crew just showed up on your ship. You're by yourself. We just showed up on your ship. We just smacked you down. We're taking your shit. It's going to take us an hour to unload this ship.
The only real
And now you
reason.
expect us to walk away after bloody, you respawning once? Piss off. That's somebody being, facetious and wanting to try and shape Star Citizen into another fucking Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, like you know what? If CIG said, "Look, here's the line: you kill them 10 times, but if they keep coming back after that, you gotta walk away." Fine. Like, I would say that's bullshit, but at least there's a clear line in the sand when it comes to like what they want in their game, and I think it's fucking bullshit. I really do. But at least if there was something that we could look to and say like, okay, like pad ramming and excessive and stream sniping, right? Like, okay, fine, this is a thing that can happen in your game, but you're telling us if we do this, then it's going to result in a ban until you can figure out a way to mechanically fix your game in such a way where that's not going to happen. And they've mostly done that with pad ramming with the hangars, and they're going to do that eventually with the Medbay situation sometime. Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. This is so. I mean, both of you guys. I think you're really right and wrong. Like, you're right in the fact that this is a mess up on CIG's huge thing. You're wrong in the fact that I don't think this is a targeted attack at piracy per se, but that this is definitely a weaponized customer service. So the real big problem, and the reason that I wanted to come forward and talk about it and kind of want to stick up because in this situation, I'm being besmirched by CIG because I didn't say anything, and now it looks like I've done something wrong. Whereas this other man who also hasn't done anything wrong is now looks like he has done something wrong. So he's been besmirched, openly, and I've been besmirched because I haven't, somebody else is speaking on my behalf and putting words in my mouth that I have nothing to do with. But the problem is that there was no recourse. There's no appeal process. This is a huge customer service issue, and it's something that definitely needs to be brought to light, and they need to listen, and they need to rectify customer service-wise. All the other stuff is their programming. If you're going to let me respawn on my medbed infinitely, I'm going to always respawn on my medbed infinitely. If you don't want me to respawn on my medbed infinitely, then make me refill it with medical supplies at a landing bay. Just like I have to fill my quantum fuel, I have to fill my bullets, all that stuff. If that's what you want the game to be, then that's what you want the game to be. Clearly they want piracy. I mean, they do want piracy, and I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's a line, but me personally, man, I've played Rust, I've played Mortal Online 2, I've played DayZ, you get camped, you get spawned in any PvP game, and even just Call of Duty, even Bond, 64 GoldenEye, you got camped and spawned. I mean, that is what happens in PvP. So if they're gonna have a PvP element that's gonna be camping and spawning, they either have to program it properly or have a way to appeal process, because these things are going to happen where somebody thinks that something was wrong and they feel like they're going to white knight for somebody, but really they're a fucking turd sandwich, and they just feel like they gotta do something, and we shouldn't stop. Like me, I love pirating. I haven't done it a lot in the game because this game doesn't really like it, but I mean, I'm a big fan of Sea of Thieves. in 3.18 with now the ability to actually take people's cargo and the games like work where like my internet might drop out for a second and I can come back in without having to go all the way back to the station and restart because like PES is really saving like my gameplay loops or I could play them now, so it's amazing. But I mean you can't have you can't have a system like that and say you want piracy and then not have it programmed properly to where things like this will happen and not have the appeal process. That's the big fuck up in my opinion, is that Dirty can't appeal. Whenever anybody said anything about it, like you kind of jumped up and tried to be vocal on his behalf, and it's like they just shut it down. They shut everything down and they tell everybody to shut up. That's the huge fuck up. And I think even Salty pointed out like you can't. This is a big mistake. You cannot treat people like this, especially I mean, you know. I get that they've made millions, but it's millions over years, and they still need people like us to continue to invest, buy a subscriber package, or buy an armor package, or a flare item here or there, just to show them we love them, because we really do, and we really do enjoy playing their game. And a lot of people really enjoy playing their game. And if they don't have an appeal process, and they start bastardizing people like this, like what they've done to Dirty, and then when you stick up for your friends, and they start screwing and shitting on you, then it's gonna create a real big PR issue, and it'll rectify one way or the other in the long run. And hopefully they listen to the player base, and this gets taken care of, and you make enough noise right now to where they have an appeal process, they have a step, because you can't have PvP in a PvP game and not have things like this happen. It's always going to be an issue, and unless they put in that step, we're going to be here a million times, and people like you guys are going to feel personally attacked by the company like you do now. And it's going to be just like it may be a misunderstanding from the company to you, or personally I'd say it's more of like just bad policy on their end, not a misunderstanding. But I mean, you lose 2 people, you lose 20 people, you lose an org, and then eventually the servers get quieter, and then there's no fun. What happens when you get bored mining? You need pirates, you need the threat, you need us for pyro. I mean, like you're saying, the game's going to pirate. You'll be in a jump lane and they'll knock you out of the jump lane. I mean, they did that 20 years ago in Freelancer. That's fine. Like, I get that they'll be able to do that kind of free pirate, like encounters and stuff. But they're not going to do it to the point where, we're sitting there behind an asteroid waiting, 2-3 hours just hanging out talking in Discord, that someone shows up and then you happen to jump them. Like that situation is not going to happen, or unless it's organic, like unless you actually have pirate factions out there searching and hunting and combing and scanning and enjoying, I just don't see them programming it right. So I think they want us. I think they need us. I think this is, just a horrible example of bad customer service and bad policy. And I think that's why we need to stick up and make noise and get it changed now, where it's the alpha and we can mold this properly. Because you guys as pirates and myself as a pirate, we shouldn't feel worried that we can't post our content. We shouldn't feel concerned, and they shouldn't even have to act like that, because on the bottom of that it said this is a test game, blah 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 blah, things might change, so they literally have 100% legal deniability. They have 100% like backdoor. Oh well, it's an alpha. It's even a public test of an alpha. So we're sorry you felt that way, but we'll make sure we get in contact with the right people and get this moving forward changed. They didn't have to ban anybody. Didn't have to do nothing. But I'm not working for them, and you guys aren't working for them. So I guess in Switzerland or Sweden or wherever, they do things a little different. So whatever.
I have to say that was the most upsetting part about this whole thing. Like, not that I got the warning, which, I mean, does, like, suck. You're like, oh, shit, what the fuck, But when I tried to ask for clarification and, like, get the opportunity to, make a case for what I was doing and why maybe that wasn't actually griefing, they just immediately just shut it right down. And I completely agree with you. Like, if they're going to continue to let us play a PvP alpha, they have to at least let us appeal these warnings and bans. And if we have evidence, provide the evidence, I'm sure that's going to create a lot of workload for their mods, but we're giving them bucking millions of dollars, so I'm sure they can break off a little bit of that to help ensure that they don't lose and alienate a significant portion of their player base. And I think a lot of people who aren't in this community, the pirate community, think like, oh yeah, there's fucking no pirates. And I'm sure statistically we're probably like 1 in 20 players Who knows, right? But it's a big chunk of the it's a chunk of the player base, and it's an important part of the player base for all of the reasons that we've already said.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where it's like CIG is clearly at fault, and I believe that they're just hoping that they can, like sweep it under the rug, not say anything about it, like just don't acknowledge it, just let it go, and hopefully eventually it'll just, the backers will forget about it. But the problem that I have, with this is we have no fucking idea how long this has been going for. There could be a whole bunch of people who have received these types of, like warnings, and they don't have anybody else there that can really, speak up for them. They're not a content creator. There's nobody else there that can, pick it up for them and push it out into, bloody in front of the rest of the community. It's just fortunate that I happened to come across CaptDirty's video where he's bringing this up, because he didn't even have to publicly talk about this. He could have just kept this all internal, and I wouldn't have had an idea. I wouldn't have made my response. Other content creators wouldn't have picked up on it and gone, "Hey, like this is actually wrong. CIG, what are you doing? What are you doing about this? You shouldn't be doing this to your backers, because regardless if you do piracy, if you do mining, cargo hauling, PMC, bounty hunter, whatever, like outside of the game, we're all backers of Star Citizen. And that's one of the things that, like some of these backers within our own community don't seem to understand, because, their belief is that Star Citizen should be the game that they want, as opposed to the game that we're all sold. Like, there's supposed to be danger in this game. CIG wants that. CIG definitely wants piracy to be a thing, but they're not being very clear about, how piracy is supposed to go. If you interpret their game design intent, you look at it and it's like, well, right now it's supposed to be very violent. You're not supposed to really interact much with the, target. It's like you go in, remove the crew from this, the ship, and then remove the value from the ship that you can and sell it on. But the problem, is like CIG has never come out and said, this is how piracy works, like they have with mining, like they've had with cargo hauling, like they talk about bounty hunting. They've talked about bounty hunting and, other gameplay professions more than they have with bloody, than they have with piracy. Piracy's kind of like this thing that, they've let us work out on our own. And now we're in this position where it's like, we're essentially being Irish mine detectors now, just, stomping our foot out in a minefield and waiting until we feel the bang. And then next thing, it's like, all right, we don't do that thing. Myself personally, like, when I saw this, I'm like, I personally didn't want to continue doing content creation, not because I didn't want to, have it weaponized against me, because there's fucking plenty of footage for people to do that, and it hasn't happened yet. It's because I didn't want to support a company who is willing to attack their own community, who help build them up. Who help advertise them, who help showcase, gameplay experiences that they aren't ready to program themselves yet, that they aren't ready to build into the game environment themselves. I'm not willing to support a company who just, starts treating us like we're fucking cash cows now, which, some people would argue that they've been doing that for ages. I didn't mind as long as I got to, play my game, and I'm not going to, have the company sit there and backflip on what they said that they were going to give us. But to me, it's like, this is starting to look like a backflip. It's like, they're trying to hide it. They're trying to, like go, hey, don't do that, thing there. With the amount of evidence that's present, as far as I'm concerned, like, the game designers would have seen that and gone, no, it looks like he's fighting back. Like, it looks like the other guy's trying to fight back. They're the pirates are trying to negotiate. They're trying to do everything that they can. These people are just playing the game. But instead, customer service is, adjudicated on this based on, minimal information. And if they did watch the video, then fucking, I don't know what the hell they were watching. Their eyes must be painted on to come to the conclusion that that was excessive griefing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
I just took a look at my chat, and there's somebody in my chat who's saying PvP pirates are not, all caps, not needed in the game at all. And that right there is the problem. unfortunately. It was somebody just like you who shares your opinion. Maybe it was you who filed that report against me. Because, like, I mean, that's the thing, man. Like, CIG has from day one, like the first time I went to the website and looked at, Star Citizen back in the end of 2013, they talk about the ability for players to pirate ships. That's why I've got the ship that I'm sitting in right now, the Cutlass Black, is because it was advertised that way, right? And now, for this to happen,
they have pirate skins in game.
I know,
Like,
I know.
They want piracy.
To say that we shouldn't be in the game, CIG doesn't want us in the game, like it's completely off base, and it's people with their own agenda trying to make Star Citizen the game that they want it to be, but was never actually advertised as. And that right there is a huge problem. They obviously are a large part of the community. I'm sure they have a lot of buying power collectively. Maybe, probably, more than the pirate community does. And I think the belief is, with these people, that since they probably carry more buying power, their opinions matter more. And right now, CIG is kind of saying, yeah, we agree with you, actually. We're just going to pass out random bans to PvP players, or ban warnings to PvP players, and not really look at the evidence, because one person decided that they were going to go send a report to CIG, or maybe a CIG mod was looking at Reddit and saw that post. I think it could have been either.
I really feel like you guys might be giving CIG like way too much credit too. I think this is, I mean, it's a company that obviously multiple offices, hundreds of people big. It's not like a small dev company that maybe it was when it first started or whatever. So, but some dude sees something on Reddit, he shoots off a thing to maybe some guy he talks to at CIG on the Discord or whatever and says, bruh, 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 bruh. He goes, all right, I'll send it to my buddy in customer service. He sends it over there. Boom, you get a complaint, and that's all the farther it goes. I mean, has CIG, and this is ignorance if they have, has CIG presented some sort of like actual statement on this? But because all so far I've heard, from my understanding, is that they've not said anything and silenced any sort of talk so far. So that to me sounds like somebody inside made a mistake, and the company doesn't want to talk about it. And if it don't talk about it long enough, it will go away. Not necessarily that the company itself is like, hey, no piracy, because there's a couple statement, so it's hard to speak for them.
Yeah, there's a couple of issues. You can't bring it up on Spectrum because you can't discuss customer service interactions. So if you try and present it on Spectrum, it will get deleted purely because the mods are following their rule set, and they have to follow it religiously, because then people start claiming favoritism, which has actually happened in the past. The thing about this though is, like, if we've had customer service experiences like CaptDirty, when he talks about this the first time, and this is the first video that I watched that I found out about it, he's had a customer service experience where he's asked them a question and they gave him an answer and they said it's okay, and now they've backflipped on this 2 years later, and that's a concern for me, because it's like, all right, well, what else are you guys changing that you're not telling us, that we're going to find out when it blows up in our face? Like, do I want to keep supporting this project if you guys are changing things in the background and you're not going to tell us about it? Because if that's the case, like, changing things in the background away, further away from what we were sold, I'm sitting there like, well, I don't want to make content for a company that's, sit there and go, hey guys, it's okay to do piracy, and then have people do piracy and then, watch them getting, warnings and potential suspensions and all that sort of stuff. Because I start feeling responsible for that. I don't put this content out there just because, my intent is to become a fucking millionaire. You're not going to become a millionaire off bloody Star Citizen content. It just doesn't have the audience power yet. Maybe in like bloody 10 years when they finally get to beta. But from my motivation is to promote my org and to promote piracy gameplay in Star Citizen. And that second one really hits home when I saw bloody Dirty getting that excessive griefing warning. I'm just sitting there like, I know he's watched our videos. I know he's been inspired by what we've done to motivate himself to, to create his own org, raise the black, and start getting out there like when he started seeing that it was finally possible, and that there was examples that he could watch, and like go, okay, well these guys are doing that, maybe I can make it work this way. And there's other people who have done that in this community as well, and now we're getting into this position where it's like people are starting to get warnings for playing the game in the same way that I have, and that I've put out there on content, that Dirty's put out there with content as well, that other content creators have done. And you get a warning for that now, and it's like, well, it would be nice ahead of time to know that CIG, you're changing shit, so that I can make a decision on whether or not I'm going to continue supporting your project. Because if they are backflipping, and this is like it's could potentially be death by 1,000 paper cuts, and we just don't see it coming until next minute. Fucking, you're only allowed to kill somebody 3 times on a medbed. CIG never addresses a infinite medbed thing because their developer times all focus on Squadron 42, and it's like you get 3 goes to kill someone. If they respawn 3 times, you have to leave the ship. And if that happens, if that becomes a thing, I will fucking be asking for a refund for my entire account, because as far as I'm concerned, that is bullshit. That should be something that is addressed in the game design. But at the same time, CIG should be reaching out and putting the line in the sand if they're going to be that pedantic, that clear with those sorts of things. If you're going to start handing out warnings, you need to tell us what that warning was for. Which is why I look at this entire scenario. It's like CIG did a half-assed job on this. It's not acceptable. We shouldn't accept that at all. How CIG handled this, and it should be like nobody in the community should be accepting this. It doesn't matter if you get into piracy or not. If you get a warning, the first thing that you should be getting told is what it's for, not an email saying, "Hey, stop doing that thing," and you're sitting there going, "What thing?" If that's the first thing that you're asking yourself, they fucked up straight away. And you should be challenging them on that, which was, exactly what Dirty did. And then when they shut down any communication afterwards, to defend yourself, like, that's bullshit as well.
Yeah.
That is absolutely bullshit. Like, you can't sit there and go, "Hey, stop doing that thing, or else we're going to give you a suspension." And you're like, "I was just playing the game. Here's the evidence." And the other person was participating in the gameplay loop as well. They don't want to lose. I didn't want to lose. We need to, hold them, pretty much in that med bay to stop them from getting out, doing whatever, whilst, like we're salvaging the Carrack. If that Carrack had fucking cargo on it, you're going to be stuck there for the next hour unloading that thing. And, the majority of your team is going to be below removing that cargo. And there's nothing that you can do about it. If that person knows that, they're just going to keep respawning and fill that that Carrack med bay up with bodies. And if, depending on what bloody CIG's game logs are looking like, it may just look like one person just fucking smashing, the Carrack owner over and over again. Next minute, they're getting an excessive briefing warning when they're literally standing guard, protecting their crew whilst they extract value from that target.
They really did.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah, like they're killing piracy by doing that.
What they've done is they've actually made the Carrack a legitimate I win ship. Like, you cannot pirate me without the fear of being reported. Now the Carrack is the safest ship that you can trade it, because you can set your medbay there, and if you get in trouble, you can continue to respawn until they get you, out to a space where they want to soft death your ship. Maybe there's 10 bodies already stacked up. By the time that they do that, there you go. You can now create your report and, threaten that player with a warning, potentially.
It changes
and
the course of action.
It sounds like a meme. My bad. There's one other thing I wanted to add. It sounds like a meme when I say it, but I guarantee you 100% there are people who are thinking this and excited about doing that, because now they don't have to worry. They had that one bad experience, and it's never going to happen to them again because they've got their Carrack.
Yeah, but this also reduces during a piracy encounter or any sort of conflict encounter that you have in any sort of game or even just in real life. There's a plethora of variables that you have to take into account of what could actually happen based on, certain actions happening. Well, for pirates now, based on this one scenario, we all know now that it's not worth the time and effort to try and capture a Carrack or an 890 jump intact, with it fully functional. Like, you just don't do it because the potential for it, turning into a scenario where you're just spawn camping somebody while you're trying to keep them down and stopping them from, attacking your crew whilst they're removing all the cargo. You have to now, if you're going to deal with a character, an 890 jump, you have to soft death the ship. And it's like, all right, well, now that we know that, the targets also know that, so they know that they're going to get soft death. So then they'll start making the arrangements to either, carry a railgun with them so that they can attack the ship from the inside, so that as soon as it's soft death, they just keep pumping railgun rounds into it until it's a hard death, and cause the ship to end up, like losing a portion of its cargo. We're weaponizing now. We're creating scenarios where players can weaponize certain actions against us based on CIG's moderation. So now, like, this is why I'm fucking wanting to keep bringing this up, because these sorts of discussions bring up, further points that a lot of people don't fully realize yet. Is, this particular scenario, a screenshot being reported, a player getting a warning. Okay, everybody else now goes, all right, well, if I don't want to end up in that situation, I now do this thing. Everybody, that doesn't like pirates, that want to, try and screw us over as much as they can, because that's the mindset of, a lot of players. Hey, if I can't win, I'll cut off my nose to spite my own face, and I'll make sure that you lose as much as, as I can make you lose. Then, they'll start preparing in a way where they know that a certain action's going to happen, and then they can just progress it, because going from soft death to hard death using a railgun doesn't take that long, even in the larger ships. And CIG, they've created this condition now, because they've now set a precedent where a player got an excessive briefing warning. We tried bringing it up with CIG. They shut it down, privately. So we've done it publicly. They've shut it down publicly. They're not willing to address it. I'm not willing to fucking let this go. I know that there are other people that aren't willing to let it go either. Like, and then, this is going to start getting out amongst the community where, this particular scenario with these two ships, we'll see fucking, players using that knowledge to empower themselves in a way that they really shouldn't be able to. Like, they shouldn't be thinking along those lines of, okay, I'm going to, screw these guys over by making sure I've always got a railgun so that if I get attacked by pirates, like, this is exactly what I do to screw them over. It's taken away the self-destruct mechanism.
Yeah.
Like, CIG just screwed themselves over by, doing this entire, taking this sort of course of action.
I think it really already has reached the larger community with, a lot of the other content creators talking about this, especially the big name guys, and like, we went into just a random server a few days ago, and there's people in general chat talking about, this situation. And so, yeah, absolutely, everybody, on either side of this is looking at this and thinking about this and considering how this will affect or change their gameplay and their plans for, future encounters that might occur. And like, it's so dumb because it's not something that actually happened in game. It's an outside influence, and I don't know. It's just like it's lame and frustrating to me.
I mean, so it's not a long-term problem. Obviously, this is a module will be pulled or turned off, or something will be, as the game develops, there'll be more control. You'll either hack in, or you'll pull a module, you'll blow the actual medbay itself up, you'll shut power down to the ship, you'll pull life support. Something will happen where, in the next couple steps of the game, this isn't going to be an issue as far as that goes. That's what I'm saying. The medbay, the Carrack, whatever. This is New York poop, man. Eventually we're going to drive cars and piles of poop aren't going to be a problem anymore. But the real problem is that the customer service, that whatever, if they screwed up and now that they're trying to quiet it, or if they just don't want to deal with it, whatever the case is, I would not stop complaining about this. I would not stop talking about this. Piracy or no piracy, money or no money, the real issue is customer service. I mean, they clearly want piracy. It's in their 3.1 ad. They talk about people coming onto your ship, players boarding. Players survive a soft death for a fucking reason. They want piracy. So if you're out there saying they don't want piracy, it's the worst thing ever. You know, it's not correct. The CIG wants piracy. This is a sandbox simulation game where anything can happen, and that means anything can happen. So you have to think of, you know, if you're in a lawful place, lawful stuff happens. If I'm running downtown, that doesn't mean someone can't run up and shoot me. That doesn't mean someone can't drive their car into me. It just means it's less likely to happen. Now, if I'm in the middle of the desert, you know, and it's no laws, or I'm in the middle of like a war zone, things are going to be different, and that's what CIG is trying to do. That's the whole point of having laws, lawless systems, comms arrays that we can knock out, so we can do our dirty deeds in the dark and not get in trouble. A whole entire loop dedicated to just prison systems. Like, they want us to go out there, be bad, and break some rocks. So you know, to say that they don't want piracy, I think is not really the point, but I mean, yeah, it scares us because you're like, well, what's going to happen? Who's going to do this? Who's going to report me next? You know, and it puts us in a state of paranoia because of the bad customer service. Like the Carrack issue, that'll come and go. It'll be another issue, some other loophole. I mean, for a while, it was this invisible thing where people would run around invisible and kill everybody SBK. You know, big issue. The community made a big fuss about it. They've worked on trying to fix it, or they've got a couple fixes or whatever. You know, they're taking care of it. We only have to do the same thing with this. Be like, hey, yeah, piracy is kind of part of the issue here, but really the issue is that you just completely shut us down customer service-wise. We had an issue, you won't, you know, and as long as we keep talking about it politely and respectfully with them, you know, I think we can get through to them, and I think we can show them that, like, you want us as part of your community. Piracy is important. Piracy is part of having a sandbox, and you need the lawless, you need the chaotic. That's why it's in every RPG ever known to man that has that sort of element. It's double side of the coin, but you scare us when you do this kind of stuff, and you have no process for appeals. You have no process for fixing this issue. I mean, you have cut your head off, and that's it. Once the head's done, we don't care anymore. You don't have the proper adjudication, the proper justice system for complaints and protocols, and everybody in the civilized world has that for the most part. So we expect that in our video games, and it's disappointing not to see that process here.
Yeah, I mean, ball is really in their court. I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'll say it again. You know, I have put out the second ticket, you know, Saturday, late Friday. So maybe in the next few days I will hear back, or maybe not, who knows. When this whole thing blew up, I obviously tried to communicate. I gave it a few days after making some of these videos, reached out to Xylo. I still don't think he's even opened that DM, which also is kind of disappointing. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, like, the way that the moderation team has dealt with me has been completely unsatisfactory, to put it bluntly and mildly a little bit.
Yeah, like part of the reason why I say that this is a weaponization of customer service is because in my mind, the CIG, it's not that they can't do any wrong in this case, it's that they're following the procedures as shit as they are. You know, like customer service or customer support handling, you know, excessive griefing claims, or, you know, like, and handing out warnings when they've also got to handle, you know, player tickets where somebody's going, my character's lost their head, or, you know, like they've got account issues and things like that. You know, they've got a lot of work on their hands. So for me, it sounds like this is, you know, a policy issue that, you know, somebody's just followed the, you know, the lines, but somebody has, you know, recognized what CIG has done, or what they're doing, you know, when it comes to handling these warnings, and they're lying to CIG in order to get these warnings handed out, which is why, you know, I I want to keep pushing this out there, and I want to get a response from CIG in, you know, along the veins that are the same as the excessive griefing posts and stream sniping posts that they made on Spectrum, where they identify and they sit there and go, you know, like, if you start making, you know, false claims against other players to attack them outside the game and weaponize customer service against other players, you're going to get the account suspension if we find out. But the problem with this entire process is that it looks like CIG needs to lock their shit down first before they can actually, push out onto the rest of the community and go, we've now got all the checks and balances that we should have had in had in place in the first, had in place from the get-go, so that when they tell the community, hey, if we catch you, like writing up false reports to try and get players in trouble through customer service, you're going to get a suspension. You're going to be treated like somebody who is stream sniping, who is excessively griefing other players. That way, like players focus their efforts on trying to solve in-game issues in-game. And if it really is something that does fit the, like griefing or, like stream sniping or something that, fits those bills of where CIG is given rough examples of things that they think players shouldn't be doing to each other, then, I'm okay with that as long as CIG, makes it clear that, hey, if you're making false claims and we find out, and we will, you're going to get in just as much trouble.
It would be
Because that's
nice.
something that we don't see at all. Like we don't see that happening. See, it's always focused on, those dirty PvPers, those dirty gankers, those dirty griefers, the ones who are always attacking players in game. They're always doing the wrong thing. And it's like, well, you see it on Spectrum where you'll get fucking brigaded by the Care Bears and they'll, like try and derail your thread. And they'll try and, attack you from different angles with stuff that's irrelevant with the intent of trying to derail a thread so it gets locked or deleted. It's happened heaps of times. And, over the years, moderation has picked up on it, but it still is happening where people are, doing everything that they can to try and derail threads. It's frustrating, to see that the PvP community won't engage on Spectrum because they end up getting attacked whenever they try and talk about PvP gameplay or, like things that involve, pirates attacking industrialists and things like that. And, the amount of people that just keep coming in to say that we don't need PvP in this game. It's like, well, it doesn't matter what you fucking say with, with regards to that, because Chris Roberts wants PvP to happen. It's going to happen in a way that he, dictates. But, the game is still being built. So you can sit there and express your opinion all you want, but if your intent is to derail this thread, you should go away. But instead of the moderators going, hey, that actually has nothing to do with this thread, they just let it go. And then, fucking, if you dealt with quite a few of the people in the PvP community, they see that as an attack on them and they'll attack back because that's just the way that they are. And they don't understand the rules. They're not sitting there, like rule lawyering their way through Spectrum. Whereas some of these Care Bears, they're doing that. They're trying to bait these responses out in order to get these threads, deleted or locked or, get PvP players hit with suspensions. And they know that that's going to be the case when they do that sort of stuff. And, CIG sees this, and instead of giving out warnings to the correct people, they just let, the Care Bear Brigade, go ahead, do their thing. And then the PvP guys, respond, and they end up getting in trouble for it. And that's why, like, I always look at this as weaponization of customer service to attack players outside the gameplay space by anti-PvP players, because there is evidence all over Spectrum of the exact same thing happening in Spectrum.
Yeah, the way that Spectrum is moderated is also very frustrating to me. I do not encourage anyone in my org to engage on Spectrum, and I find that when they do, about half of them end up getting like warnings or 3-day suspensions from Spectrum. Some of them have been banned. It never really goes well, and so definitely the brigading is happening there, or the moderation is pretty heavy-handed when it comes to pirates. I've seen people share really negative opinions on Spectrum and, not be shut down in the same ways that people that I see in the PvP and piracy communities get shut down. But that, that is what it is. I'm willing to give the Care Bears Spectrum. I think it's probably better. Like, they win, okay? It's better for my mental health to just not fucking engage on Spectrum. I get shut down by the moderation when I do, and so it's fine. Y'all can have that. But like, to circle back to something that you said also before, there needs to be some way to de-incentivize people from making like off the cuff reports and like falsely reporting people. I, it's another thing I've said before. I would be very interested to see just how many reports have been filed against my account for things that like, it's just like part of the gameplay where we shut down a ship and we blew it up and the player had no idea, and to them they feel like they got griefed, and that fits their definition of griefers, so they send that report. Like, I truly have no idea, but I've been at it for a while now, and I would not be surprised if the number were in the dozens, and that might be like an underestimation, really. But who knows, right? I have no way to know. But the thing, with that is when a new report comes in and the moderator looks at my account and they see my history of how there's 50 reports against CaptDirty, and wow, look at this screenshot. Like, this guy's definitely a griefer. We're definitely giving him a warning. And I just, I think that I agree with you that there needs to be a way to de-incentivize that, and to, if players are going to, just use the customer service against other players, and it's obvious that that's what they're doing, I agree. They should be the ones receiving warnings, but I don't really see that happening. I don't know. That seems a little far-fetched to me. But who knows? Who knows what their response will be to this situation, if any. Currently, we're going past 2 weeks, and they've said absolutely nothing about this. And that to me is I wish that they would just acknowledge this in some way, and give us something.
That's the thing, is that like they need to create the systems, and they need to start creating them now to deal with these problems, because they're developing the game more. They're putting more shit in there, and it's going to get even more disruptive. Wait until bloody Care Bears start going into Pyro, and they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they're being mining and refining on site. So they got their little Odyssey out there and their prospectors and moles, and they're doing their mining ops out in the middle of nowhere, and pirates come across them, and we attack them and we take all their shit. And it's been like it's a week's worth of work. So we hit pay dirt, and it's like they all go, we just got griefed by these guys. We spent all this time and effort playing the game, and CIG could sit there and go, oh well, you guys were in Pyro and stuff like that. And in my mind, there's going to be a point where that may actually become griefing, because we've seen CIG go where spawn camping to medbed is gone from it's okay because you guys as long as you're kind of playing the game still and not trying to prevent them from playing, to well, no, it's wrong in any sort of circumstance. So if we end up going and attack a little mining operation out in the middle of nowhere, what's a defense against that they could use? Oh, we'll just mind in our own business. We weren't trying to, engage in any sort of PvP. We're leaving people alone. And we show up there and we attack them, and it's like, well, you're not allowed to attack people unless it's an agreed upon war or anything like that. If Star Citizen starts going along those lines, I'll be like, you're killing piracy. You keep turning around saying you want piracy in this game, but then you would turn around and kill it by doing something like that. And that's just as far as I'm concerned, that's an extreme example. But that's an extreme example now. That may actually be a legit example in 2 to 4 years time, but we don't know, because CIG isn't communicating with us. And it may end up being that, the Care Bears, and this is still one of the reasons why I still engage on Spectrum, is because it's not to fight the Care Bears, it's to keep putting out in front of CIG, hey, there are player pirates out there still, that aren't always content creators. There's discussions that we're having. There are topics that are actually important to us that we want to bring up, irrespective of, like the Care Bear actions that are happening, and, how they want to talk and, talk down to us, talk smack to us in Spectrum. There's stuff that we want to talk about, and put in front of you guys on your platform so that you guys know that there are players who are engaged in that sort of stuff without COG having to go, to YouTube, to bloody Twitch, to, Reddit, going elsewhere to see that, like seeing it on their own platform so that they know, hey, there's still people trying to do this thing, as opposed to, like people, pulling away and going, oh, I don't really want to engage because I'm just going to get brigaded. I understand, people not wanting to, deal with that, and I respect that. My reasoning of always pushing back onto Spectrum, is to try and make sure that there's still that voice there. There's still, CIG still seeing that voice, and to try and encourage other people who are also engaged in PvP gameplay, whether it be piracy, bounty hunting, or, like whatever else, that they want to engage in from the PvP's perspective, that, they're not always going to get brigaded by Care Bears.
Yeah, that's not Spectrum in my experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. It's shit. Like, it shouldn't be happening, but CIG doesn't seem to be interested in moderating it in that sort of way where discussions are kept balanced. And, like, I think, like, PvP players, well, like, the community needs to be coached a bit better on how to interact with each other. And CIG could do, with their moderators, a better job. And I'll tell you now, like, where Spectrum is now in comparison to where it was like 3 and 4 years ago is like night and day. Like 3 or 4 years ago, talking about piracy or bringing up any sort of topic like that, you just got brigaded, and you got brigaded hard. And they did everything that they could to try and derail that. Like, I had a thread locked and then had it reviewed a couple of days later and unlocked because, it got locked because it just got derailed, and it just ended up in this tit for tat, shit where some, people in the community, some PvPers, ended up engaging and taking the bait of these militant, anti-PvP players who were trying to derail the topic and, create the reports that they needed to try and get the topic shut down. It eventually got unlocked because somebody actually brought it up, and they brought it up to Xylo, and they said, hey, there was actually a really, series of discussions happening here, but because of these people trying to derail the thread, it got locked. Can you have another look at it? So the moderation team had to go back. They looked over it, and then they, started actually doing their job, moderating, and, like, I think about 6 bloody temp bans for Spectrum were handed out to some of those militant anti-PvP players who were trying to bait people into arguments, and they were fucking salty as fuck about it. And I was happy about it. Like, that actually happened, that CIG had, finally done their job. But we need to, CIG needs to coach the entire community on how to engage better so that, like, if people are trying to engage and derail threads on purpose, CIG needs to spot that and go, hey, you stop doing that right there. This is a topic of discussion. Stay on topic.
Yeah, I mean, this is just me. CIG is not going to tell people not to be trolls. I don't care what kind of whatever they say. They're magic wand. People are going to be trolls. People are always going to be trolls, regardless. You're going to have if the moderators aren't going to moderate, that's an issue that CIG needs to address. Clearly you talk about that a lot. I get that, and that's a big win for you. That's awesome. And I mean, other than that, like, I mean, we just kind of keep going in circles. Really, that it's you know, I don't know, man. It seems like you have to keep pushing this. Seems that, like, CIG is saying this and CIG is saying that, and I just don't. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't see CIG saying the things that you are necessarily saying that they're saying. However, I understand that you probably have been around a lot longer and been around the limb a lot more. I don't necessarily mess with Spectrum a lot, so you probably get into that and kind of get mired into that and see a lot more of that. So and that's kind of like really any community you get into, man. Like any kind of you're gonna have the back and forth on any YouTube, any Facebook, any sort of Discord, any kind of moderation team needs to be there because you have that. The troll goes in and then it spins off, So I mean, like, I can see where CIG needs to moderate their forums better if that's the case, where a good discussion gets led off track. But that can happen anywhere. I don't think they're gonna put any kind of rules out that's gonna stop that. They just have to monitor and moderate like they're supposed to, like a good Discord forum. You put a bunch of stuff in there. If it doesn't make sense, a bot can auto that. Like, so either they need to set up better moderation bots or have people do their job, whatever happens to be the case. Sounds like maybe even one time they did, which is awesome. And I mean, that's a fight that definitely needs to be fought. As far as the Carrack, situation, I think that's going to change within a short period of time. And I think that as the gameplay develops, you're not going to have issues with the Carrack specifically. You'll have more, like I said, other bugs will develop, other issues will develop, other things will produce, but the game will die and it'll be an issue if they don't increase their customer service, And that's really the only issue is that they have to listen to this situation. If we can push from this situation to say, hey, look, if you have a valid arbitration system for customer service issues where A and B are both heard, and you give us a week to respond, and you can make a decision, or if you feel like it's something really crazy, but I don't see a situation where it needs to be like an auto ban for almost anything other than like, threats of violence, I guess. But I mean, even that, most situations, it's not going to result in anything real life. I get the company has to take precautions and stuff, but most situations that you're going to resolve in this game are going to be things where they can have an arbitration process. We can talk to party A, party B, resolve the issue. If they put that out there, this entire situation is resolved. If they with more everything, better audio, better gameplay, better servers, better modulations on the things where all those different pieces happen, a lot of this particular issue goes away. The real persisting issue is customer service, and I think we've killed that. I mean, we've beat that horse. They definitely, and personally, what I've done is I message off in a concierge thing. Hopefully they get back to me. I doubt it, like I said, but at least like I said, I will step out there on Dirty's behalf and say, hey man, this is wrong, and you made this wrong, and here's what I think, and I'll tell them, hey, I see why it happened, I understand why it happened, this is going to happen again, and if you don't do this, it's just going to be an issue, and it's going to keep being a problem, and you're going to be upset by it over and over and over again, because there's no resolution if we don't have arbitration, because you can't, and it's going to work both ways too. Sometimes, boom, I lied and I said you rammed me. Well, he didn't ram you. He just happened to have you bumped into you or whatever. But it doesn't matter because, that guy reported you 600 times, and so you've been waiting for a moment where you could snag him. And it breeds just horrible hatred, And they don't want that as a community. They know they don't want that. So if they can see a way around it instead of just shutting it up and they get an actual solution, it might be more amicable to work with us instead of just, when we're constantly like, hey, CIG did this, and CIG's bad, and CIG's bad. I mean, at a certain point, if you don't like them, don't make content for them. That's on you, and that's a whole different discussion, And I'm sure you've been weighing that for a long time, both you guys, because it sounds like you both have been doing this for a long time. So, mad respect on that issue for both of you. I hope that you, take time and come to results. I hope that CIG steps up and gives us some sort of arbitration system, and I hope that this situation resolves in the best of your guys' favor, so that you can enjoy the game that we feel we all obviously enjoy, because we all play. I'm sure we've got hundreds of hours, all of us, because really we enjoy what they provided. So I hope this is the best resolution for all of them. But I am I'm tired, man. It's getting late for me. So
I think you've put a cap on this conversation very nicely. I don't think there's much I would add to that other than thanking you for following through and filing a ticket with them. I do think that we have to keep talking about this until CIG also talks about it or addresses the situation in some way. So I probably will be dragging this fucking horse back out in another week or so if even if I do hear otherwise. People now in the community want to know and, feel like they probably need to know some of these answers. So, yeah, this horse is coming back out for sure before too much longer. But I wanted to also thank you for coming out here and talking with us and clearing a lot of this up and providing some perspective. I also want to quickly say, I think it's very ironic that you also play as a pirate, and that no Care Bears were harmed in the making of any of this content. And I think I'll leave it on that note.
Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out there, Dradmer, and making the time and effort to actually discuss this and help clear this up.
Oh yeah. I mean, I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to throw my side out there. That's not always the case when something goes crazy, and I appreciate you, just clearing the air. Yeah, I'm not the Carrot, although it is a cool name. Karen is just honestly, it just rolls off the tongue. I wanted to steal it, but then people started getting all. Everyone's I started seeing this COD, like people started getting real negative with it. And I was like, oh well, I want to let them know, hey, I didn't report these guys. I wasn't. While I was persistent and I am tenacious and stubborn like a fucking goat, I'm not an asshole, and I'm not going to report someone for having a good time. So, so I mean, I've been hell, dude. I've been camped for longer than that in different games, and just not giving up because I'm just stubborn. So, but yeah, I appreciate the time to give my side, and at the same time, guys, this is something, the customer service, that you have to speak up. I mean, you gave me the opportunity to give my chance, and like I said, I sent off that to. Hopefully they get back to me. At some point, I was very vague about it, so that they were like, so they don't get to like immediately just dispute it, like, oh, that's the Medbay thing. I was trying to be like, hey, somebody I feel like erroneously made a customer complaint on my behalf, and it's upset me as one of my friends is now facing repercussions for it, and what can we do about this? So I just wanted to so vaguely kind of adjust it and see if we can get something. I don't necessarily need to publicize whatever they say back. That's not the intent. It's just to try to get that part fixed, and then talk to them about, hey, we had this issue because this isn't here, or if it is here, nobody knows about it. How do we make this more public? And then they can address it and they can maybe talk about it. At least give them that opportunity. And if they're turning a blind eye, I mean, they have to know it's happening. This is definitely rumbling. It's in the community. It's starting to hit local chat. I mean, there's several content creators now talking about it. So we need to keep that part of it up because the discussion has to happen. It doesn't necessarily need to be a he said, she said. Blame doesn't necessarily have to happen. It's not a black and white thing, but it needs to happen. And I'm glad that you guys allowed my part of it to be said, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you. And agents, thank you for helping set it up.
No worries, man. It was definitely a discussion that I was interested in, wanted to be on, and I'm still going to keep trying to champion this cause because, as far as I'm concerned, this has opened up a community issue that isn't only relegated to PvP now. Or affects pirates. This is something where people are using customer service to attack other players. In my mind, until CIG comes out and says that they did it, in which case that's a completely different story. But
yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, somebody weaponized customer service, and everybody in this community should be concerned because CIG acted on that. Yeah, thanks for having us on.
awesome.
All right, GG's, everybody.
Catch you later, mate.
Take care. See you in the verse.